Happy Wednesday! I want to share with you my battle scars in the kitchen. I don't know if you can see it. So there's a scar here from accidentally touching my hand to the wok as I was frying noodles, and there's a scar here. It looks like a lightning bolt. This is from accidentally burning myself when I was trying to take like a cake out of the oven. Not really a cake, like I've been baking like banana bread and wholemeal bread and brownies and whatnot during this movement restriction lockdown in Malaysia. So I just want to share my battle scars with you. I feel like a lot of us have been experimenting a lot more in the kitchen based on the posts that I see on social media, and even within my own family. Everyone in the family group chat is like sending each other photos of what they've cooked or what they're cooking or new recipes they're trying out. So if anything, I feel like whatever that's happening in this world and us not being able to go out has the one upside, and it's making us more creative and probably better cooks. And I know that, I'm probably a lot more clumsier than I should be. But I don't know. I think that like with a lot of things in life, like as you get older, you don't really mind or care so much about as when you were younger. And today's topic is actually somewhat related to this, not the scars or burning yourself in the kitchen, but related to how when you're younger, it may be harder or easier for us to say no, or for you to say no. And when you're older, it could be easier or harder for you to say no. So today's topic is about how we sometimes feel like we should say no to certain people, like we want to say no to certain people, and whether or not we find it difficult. So I would love to hear what your thoughts are when it comes to you feeling comfortable or uncomfortable saying no when you feel like saying no, and whether sometimes do you say yes to people despite feeling like you want to say no, especially to family members. I think right now with quarantine, a lot of us are with family members, and I've talked about this in detail and at length in my previous live chats, and I feel like being with family members now, there are a lot of things that you may want to talk about but you feel like you can't talk about, and one of these things may be the fact that you don't really want to say yes to certain things, so you want to voice up and voice your opinion about certain things, and you feel like you can't. So it's not just about not being able to say no. I think certain times we want to be able to express ourselves and our thoughts and our opinions, but for some reason we hold back. Like we would rather like suffer in silence, and have that frustration inside of us. And maybe we'll even like call somebody up and rant and complain, as opposed to saying to the person, to whomever that we're feeling this frustration with, as opposed to just having that conversation with this person and bringing up the topic and just settling it, right? There are a lot of reasons why we don't feel like we can bring things up, and it causes a lot of frustration and anxiety and even stress in our lives. And I think that like today it'll be great to be able to talk about these things. Like, what do you feel like you can't say? Oh, my phone is like, I gotta charge my phone. Kind of like the battery sign went. Okay, so there's certain things that we feel like we can't say, and I would like to know what you think, and like basically what you experience in your life that you feel you can communicate easily, and what are the things that you feel like you can't communicate easily, and whether it causes you any frustration. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Hi to everybody saying hi. Hi Helen, hi Rowella, hi Betty. It's so cute. They say hi Xandria, and everyone watching, 153 of you. Okay, so one of the main things that I've been thinking about, and because of quarantine I've had a lot of time to think, and I'm sure you guys have a lot of time to think too, I've been thinking about how sometimes I notice in myself this desire to say yes. And I guess it's very similar to the discomfort of saying no. And it's similar, but the reason I put it in such a way where I've examined my own reactions and feelings, and I realized that when somebody asks me something, let's say a client, for example, and they're asking me if I can do this. Now, sometimes I feel like what the person is asking is different from the original brief. So let's say you have a customer and these are the terms and this is the contract that you've signed, and later they ask you, oh, can you just do this, it won't take up that much of your time, can you just add on something else? And in these kind of situations, I feel like when someone asks me if I can just quickly do something for them, or can I just add on a little something, and technically, the way they've phrased it, it sounds like it's not that a big deal, like we're not asking for much. And on my end, I feel like anybody can ask anything, at any time. That's my philosophy. Like, I feel like if people want to ask something, they totally should. And it is up to me to be able to say yes or no, right? Like, I don't blame people for asking. I feel like it's great that people feel comfortable enough to ask me for things. Now, what I struggle with sometimes, and I feel like this is a real struggle sometimes, is I feel like saying yes to their requests, not because I think it's okay to just add on extra work outside of the brief and the price that we agree on, but I feel like saying yes because it's so linked to my need to not come across as difficult to work with, and I don't know if you guys struggle with this, right? Like, I don't know if you've ever experienced this, where people whom you like and people whom you want to think well of you, like, we all have people whom we don't really worry about what they think about us, like they're strangers or they're customers that, like everyone has their own opinion, and so it doesn't really bother us, we don't take it personally. But then there's certain instances where you're actually working with someone that you do respect, or this is a client or customer whom you value actually, and they're asking you for something that, like, oh, can you just, add on this, and can you just give me a little bit of a discount, can you this, can you that? And in these kind of situations where you do want a good relationship with the person, and you do want the person to have a good impression of you as well, and this is what I struggle with, because I do want them to think well of me, and I don't want the person that I'm liaising with to feel like, oh my God, Xandria is such a difficult person to work with, right? And so in my reply, when someone asks me for extras or for something that's outside of my brief, I have reasons actually to say no. First of all, it's not in the brief, it's not in the agreement, right? We agreed on this for a certain amount of money, right? It's like any business transaction. And I feel like it's hard for me, like, even to write a message to reply, like, I have to think so long on, should I just say yes? Should I examine, like, why, like, should I explain why I don't feel comfortable with it, right? Even that thought process takes a long time. And then I feel like I have this struggle where I do send off a message or reply an email and then kind of worry about whether they're going to have the wrong impression or whether they're going to have a negative impression. And for me, this is such an interesting observation about myself. Like Pooja here asks, do you actually want to say no? Yes. I feel like there are reasons to say no. And in explaining these reasons, the other thing I struggle with is that I can fully understand where they are coming from as well. I understand the person who's asking, whether it's my client or whether it's a third party or whether I'm just dealing with somebody, right? Like, I feel like I can understand where they're coming from. So there is a certain level of empathy where I do want to make their jobs easier. Sometimes I know they're asking because their client is asking them, you know, and as a person who enjoys this relationship and I really like the people I'm dealing with and I see them, you know, as a friend, like even if we're not friends, like anybody I deal with, you know, I kind of see them as like me, like a fellow human being, right? And so I do want to make their jobs easier. I want to make the lives easier. It's kind of like when your friend asks you to help out or to do something and you feel like you want to say yes, but at the same time you have reasons for saying no, whether it's because like, I don't know, whether it's because you feel like you only have this amount of time and you want to spend it on your family instead, you know, and then you start to feel guilty that you're not saying yes. So I have these kind of thoughts and these kind of feelings, and I want to talk about this and share this with you because I feel like a lot of us probably have a desire or a need for positive validation, positive approval. And this is interesting because when I examine how I feel about these situations, I find it a really good opportunity for me to look at my own needs and my own fears. And, you know, just to let you guys know, me telling you this story doesn't mean that I didn't say no. I always end up explaining to someone why I can't do certain things, even if I feel like I want to, and I always just express how I feel about it. What I'm trying to say here, I guess, is that it's not difficult, right? There are many situations in life where it is not easy for us to say no. In fact, like a lot of the times I feel like my life will be so much easier and I would save so much time in that conversation if I just said yes. And this doesn't just apply to work situations, this applies to relationships as well. A lot of the times we feel like we want to voice something out, we want to express how we feel, but the thought of it is so daunting, or we're so afraid of the reaction we're going to get, and we're so afraid of whether they'll think badly of us or whether we'll come across, like even if you want to talk to your boyfriend or girlfriend and you want to voice something out and you feel like you can't because, you know, maybe they'll think that you're nagging them, or maybe they'll think that you're needy, you know, or maybe they might break up with you or whatever it is. Just a lot of fears holding us back. And so this whole topic of whether or not we're able to say no and how difficult or easy it is, or how we feel about it, is such an interesting discussion, I think, because we all have our own fears and our own needs, and because we're all human and we want to feel accepted, you know. And I think that the more we understand what we need to feel accepted in and who we need to feel accepted by, and why certain situations are more of a struggle for us than other situations, the happier we'll be. Because then we realize that it is not the situation that's causing us this suffering, it is not the person that's causing us this suffering, it is actually our own needs, you know, that's holding us back, and our own fears is holding us back from being able to express and communicate what we feel. And this also ties into us standing up for ourselves in a way. Like, if you don't approve of someone's actions and you don't say anything, and you just sulk or you just show negativity towards them, I feel like this is not just immaturity, but it comes from a place of fear, You know, like if you are feeling like somebody is doing something wrong, or you feel like they're just doing something you don't like or you don't accept, or it's just not in your realm of standards or manners or beliefs, right? And maybe this is a person that matters to you, like maybe this is a family member, or maybe it's a colleague that you have to work with. I mean, it's not like you can just like ignore this person, and you feel like you want to be able to say something, right? But you don't. A lot of the times we're not able to express what we're feeling, and then we have a lot of negative thoughts about this person, and we have a lot of feelings of frustration with this person. And it's interesting to examine this, because on the surface the answer would be, well, it's hard for me to talk to this person, it's hard for me to express how I feel, it's hard for me to say no because they are a difficult person, you know. And whilst that may be true, like they could very well be a very difficult person to speak to, you know, maybe they have a lot of triggers, maybe they are very insecure about certain things, or maybe their worldview is very different from yours, so you know that they're not going to agree to what you're saying. So there's a lot of like resistance in being able to express. But at the end of the day, I think that if we are not held back by any kind of like need for respect, for example, then or we don't have any fear that this person will reject us, for example, or they'll think badly of us, and we don't have any need for this person to like us, I think it'll be easier for us to just feel like we can communicate regardless of what their response is going to be. We will feel brave enough to say something, you know. And I do think it has to do with bravery at the end of the day, because I think what holds us back, it's a lot of apprehension that we don't understand. You know, we know that we're apprehensive, we know that there's something stopping us from being able to vocalize and express what we're thinking, but we're not able to do it. We're not brave enough to say those things because we're so afraid of the consequences of what might happen. And the key to be able to stand up for ourselves, to be able to express something, and to be able to let go of this frustration, if that's what you're carrying around with you, is to be brave enough to examine your own feelings, is to examine the why, you know, like, why am I feeling this way? On the surface, it may seem like that person's difficult to talk to, but deeper down, it's more than that, you know, because even if the person is difficult to talk to and you have no hang-ups and you have no fears and you have no needs, and you know that it's completely not personal and you don't need anything from this person, you know, and you can be genuinely honest and kind in that conversation, you know, there would be no apprehension. I don't know, let me know what you guys think. Let's see. Kate, seriously, I have experience 10 years ago from my ex-friend. She tried to lend some money for me when me and my daughter went to visit my mom for a vacation, but I say no and tried to explain to her nicely, even though it's hard for me to say no because she is my friend. I told her I can't because we're on a budget and that I don't have extra money to lend her, and it surprised me that I thought she will understand, but she cursed me instead. She told me that if I were you, I will hold on to my husband very tightly, meaning that someday in the future my husband will leave me with nothing. And my mom saw my ex-friend that messaged me on Facebook, and even my mom was very shocked. So I calmly replied her and I told her that, sorry if I make you upset, have extra money for you, and but what you said, I need to hold on to my husband. I don't really understand this. Wait, let me see. Okay, so basically what you're saying is that you were attacked by your friend when you were trying to be honest with your friend, right? And this is, again, something that, you know, people's reaction, something that we can't control. And what's interesting, like, you know, this topic, the reason I'm talking about it is because what's interesting is to examine whatever reaction that we feel. Like, if it's hard, or if we feel insulted, or if we feel unsupported, or if the person, you know, suddenly hates us, it's interesting to observe like what we feel about it, Yeah. Oh, Peter here says, quite often, notifications for your talks is posted 5 to 10 minutes after your talks begin. People like me are missing the beginning of your chats. Oh no, I didn't know this. Well, it's good to know. Well, okay, the good news is that even after the live chat, this will be posted on my Facebook wall, so you guys can always go back and watch the beginning, the start. Pooja here says, some people have real problems to say no and have real difficulties getting there and putting their foot down because it's a very thin line between this feeling of being used or actually being needed. Some people keep using the fact that you can't say no. I think that like in this conversation, I don't want to talk about how people can't say no. And I think I want to be able to approach this as like we're all humans, and so we can empathize, you know, and we can understand why it's hard for someone to say no. And this is the reason I share my story with you, because I find that out of a lot of people I know, I probably have the least resistance saying no. I find that I'm able to say no. I've said no many times during this quarantine to a lot of requests from people, you know, to collaborate on certain projects and stuff like that. And I have reasons for saying no, and I tell them why. And I don't know what they may be thinking of me or about me, but I can only do my best, which is to express how I feel. Now, because of the frequency that I've been saying no and being able to like vocalize and express, I feel like I understand though, like the feeling of even when I'm saying no, I have to think like, how should I express this in a way that conveys that it's not personal and I still do care. You know, I do care, and it's not because I don't care that I'm saying no. So, you know, like I'm thinking all these things that I'm thinking, you know, there's so many messages that I get from you guys that I feel like it comes from a place where it is difficult to express what you're thinking. It is difficult to just stand up for what you believe you want or what you want to convey. I made a video recently on YouTube about a story that I told on that video about me going for like a photo shoot and how, you know, I didn't know a photographer was going to turn up, and I asked to look at the photos before he left, and they were not happy about it, and were not happy that I was looking through the photos and deleting those that I didn't like. And for me, I could feel like they were unhappy. And you need to watch the video. You could just go to YouTube, and it's one of the more recent videos. It's about, I think, 11-12 minutes long, and so the entire story is there. And it's interesting because what I observed about myself is that every time I feel uncomfortable saying no, but I still do it anyway. But when I feel uncomfortable saying no, it is tied to this need, you know, for people to think well of me. And I wonder, like, how many of us actually seek positive validation that way, right? And there's in so many different areas, you know. Sometimes we have this need to be accepted and to be liked by certain groups of people. Maybe you don't care about certain groups of people, but maybe you care very much about what certain groups of people think about you. Maybe it's about prestige, or maybe it's about status. I don't know, you know. Maybe with certain friends you care very much about what they think about you. With certain friends you don't care very much about what you think about you. But whatever it is, right, it does come from a place of like some kind of fear and some kind of need, you know. Leslie here says, my apprehension causes me to be secluded and tied to being home a lot. It sounds kind of like the quarantine. Someone here says, some people are really ungrateful even if you help them. Some people will use you and just be friends to you because they know they can use you, but when the benefit stops, then their friendship stops as well. I feel like this is so true, but I think that it doesn't come so much about them feeling ungrateful. I think that like a lot of people have a lot of like, again, fears and needs with them, and we don't understand what their triggers are, so they are driven by different motivations from yourself. And so like, you know, I was just talking to someone and I realized like, hey, you know, this person has a very different philosophy and worldview from what I think is true friendship. And it's not that they're ungrateful. I think they truly cannot see it, you know. It's not that they're trying to use me. And I really don't think anybody can use you if you can say no, you know. Maricela asks, should we explain our reasons for saying no? It's totally up to you. I think that if you feel like you want to say no, then you can, right? Mali, I'm glad. Let's see. Okay, what's going on? I'm scrolling back up and I'm seeing all these comments about anger. Kim here says, my take is it's not always what you say, but how you say it. If we are objective, fair and kind, we should be able to talk like adults. So true. Let's see. Going back up. Chick Daya here says, it's so hard to feel not guilty when saying no to family's events, but I did it anyway for my sanity. Yes. Yeah, the thing is like, sometimes it's hard. Christina here says, when the customer asks for extra, I usually joke and say yes, but it's very expensive. That's great. When you are able to joke about it, you know, I think that's great. Okay, scrolling back down. Jojo here says, Xandria, I can't even stress like how I feel about things that he does or says that hurts me. For example, I can't tell him I'm so busy at work that I can't clean his things immediately, but to him it's like, why can't you do it? And then he'll start screaming. I can't tell him certain things that he does is inconsiderate because he'll get very angry. Basically, I feel like he doesn't care about how I feel. When he watches videos at 2 a.m. in the bedroom, I can't ask him to lower down the volume. Even if I tell him nicely, he'll scream. But interestingly, he's very kind and sweet to his friends. I can't understand. When I told him we need to talk, he'll say that I have a big problem. What can I do to help this marriage? I think that this is very interesting. I think in this sense, the question is why? And before even helping the marriage, before even wanting to fix anything, I think the first thing you can do, Jojo, is to seek to understand your husband. It's so interesting to try to figure him out, like try to understand. Like, I'm very curious. Like, I would love to be able to understand why he would scream and why he would not want to talk to me. And not, you know, in order to be able to really understand, it's to like kind of separate my needs and my fears from this investigation almost, you know, because if not, I'll always feel like I'm so loving, why is he like this? Or I'm so understanding, why is he like this? Or, you know, I feel like I can't, like, I feel like he's so inconsiderate. You know, there's too much baggage. There's too much feelings and hurt to be able to fully understand or seek to understand someone. And it's when I say trying to understand your husband, I don't mean excuse him his behavior. What I mean is the reason I say seek to understand why he behaves this way is so that you yourself can decide, number one, how do you want to bring up this topic with him? Number two, whether it is possible talking to him about it. And number three, if it's completely not possible having a conversation with him, then you need to ask yourself, what do you want from this relationship? And if what you want from this relationship is not in this relationship, then it's time to ask yourself, like, why are you still in this relationship, or why do you want this relationship? Or do you want to exit this relationship? You know, so to be able to understand somebody's actions, especially when it's your spouse and the way they're behaving, is the most interesting. because then you can decide how you want to approach this person in conversation. If let's say you've understood this person and you know that it's coming from their ego, and they are nice and sweet like to their friends because they care a lot about status, or they care a lot about what people are thinking, or what people think about them, then you can understand him to some extent, and then you can talk to him about certain scenarios and certain instances. And communicating with somebody, it's very interesting. Like, I'm not privy to a lot of the context of your relationship and your communication, but the way communication is done, it's very different for every couple, but the principles of communication is always the same. Like, I would highly recommend reading my book. This is my book. Chapter 2 talks about fulfillment in love and relationships. It talks a lot about expectations. And chapter 3 talks about communication. Communicating with people that whom we find difficult to communicate with, including your spouse, you know. A lot of the principles are the same. No matter how different your scenario is, we cannot run away from the fact that a lot of things in life just boils down to whether we want something or not, and why we want something, right? And if we want to be with a person, we have to know why we're in a relationship, right? And if we want to communicate with a person, then we need to equip ourselves with the skills to communicate, because we cannot depend on the other person to magically develop the skills, right? Because we have no control over how somebody behaves, or what they learn, or what kind of growth that they're seeking in their life. Like, there's nothing to do with us. Like, even if this person is your spouse, like even with Yuri, I have absolutely no control over what he wants to think and what he wants to do with his own life, right? I believe in growth, and I believe in learning, and I believe in opportunity in mistakes, and I believe in communication. And Yuri believes in the same thing, and it's great that we're on the same page on this. But if he didn't believe in the same things, and I find I cannot accept it, then I need to be able to communicate with him in a way that I can understand what he's thinking and where it's coming from. Because only when I can understand, and I have some sort of understanding, that I can make the decision as to whether this is a person I do want to spend the rest of my life with. You know, don't forget that a lot of us go through marriage like we fall into marriage almost, you know. It's something that's like sold to us, like in commercials, right? Like, you grow up, you go to school, you get good grades, you get a good job, and then you meet somebody and you fall in love, and then you get married, and then you have children, and in the meantime, it's not like we've developed any skills to communicate. It's not like we've developed any skills to understand ourselves. And so we find ourselves in a marriage, but, you know, a lot of our skill level is like level 1, you know. We're amateurs, right, in being able to understand ourselves, in being able to understand somebody else, in being able to communicate what we don't understand, right? And so, yeah, read the book, because I think that it'll at least give you like a foundation, or like a basis for understanding yourself, and then knowing how to seek to understand your husband. Okay, this is a really long answer. I hope it helps. Let's see. Gia here says, just say no and stop being a chump. Let your yes be yes and no be no. Let the person feel the way they feel. If they are rude, then say, excuse me and goodbye. I don't owe you anything, period. See, this is why I want to talk about why I'm talking about saying no, because, you know, at any one time, it's always easier to say, yeah, you know, if they cannot accept my no, then goodbye. You know, like, it's easy to be very defensive about it. And I feel like in life, we can say, I don't care about what people think, right? Nah, whatever they want to think, they want to think, right? I think that what's interesting is to investigate even this form of like defense, like being defensive in any way. is some sort of indication that we have a need for something to protect ourselves. You know, it's like I don't want what they think of me to affect me, and so I'm gonna push it away, right? And that in itself shows that we do have a need for something, or we do have a fear of something, if that makes sense. Yeah, it's like saying I don't care what people think about me, but the fact that we're like so defensive about it, like, I don't really care, I don't care what people think about me, right? It shows that it affects us if we care, if we try to have understanding, or if we go down that path, right, of examining why and analyzing why. It might hurt us, and therefore we don't even want to consider it because it's not my problem. It's really not my problem, right? And so what I find most interesting about life is to not be defensive, and to be able to understand where our hesitations are coming from, and to be able to have understanding and empathy regardless of whether it's a yes or a no. Like I was just telling my husband today that, you know, there are certain people who have very different beliefs and worldviews and philosophies from me, and even though I don't like, or I don't resonate with the way they talk to me or the way they treat other people, instead of saying that, oh yeah, you know, these people, you know, they are so different from me, you know, like why? That's just me feeling superior. That's no point, right? Like for me, what I do want to practice is, if somebody is behaving in a way that is distasteful to me, or I find it distasteful, or I find not in line with what I believe in, I find that interesting, you know, like it gives me a perspective into that people are different. And it's for me to practice being non-judgmental. And the way for me to do that is to seek to understand, right? Otherwise, I am just lifting my own ego up by feeling all superior about my beliefs and the way I am, and I'm so confident, and this person are so lame. You know, like if we think like that, then it speaks even more about our own insecurities, that we can't even be non-judgmental. Because, you know, to say like, oh, those people are the people that we have no problem saying no to, because like, you know, that's just not my cup of tea, or like this to me is, for my own practice, it's not something I want. Because I want to be in a space where I don't worry about what people think about me, but I want to be in a space where I care about how people feel. And I want to be in a space where I do care about how people work and how they're thinking. And I care about the why. I don't believe that people are out to get me. I don't believe that, you know, there are people trying to take advantage of me left, right, and center, and I should say no and stand up for myself. Like, I don't really believe that. I believe that I should voice something out when I feel uncomfortable, and I should be able to say no. And if I say yes, I don't want to say yes and then start to feel like a victim, right? And so I want to be able, let's see. Okay, so I want to be able to have an understanding of someone. Yeah. I have no fear of anything, but you're not telling me how to run my life. I have a right to say no. If you think I'm defensive, then maybe we have different views of dealing with people. I feel like you definitely should live your life in a way that resonates the most with you. You know, this chat and like in all my videos is not about what's right and what's wrong. It's about me sharing my personal practices and my views and my thoughts. And if like, I strongly, in fact, would encourage you to question everything that I say, you know, because only if something truly resonates with you should you adopt it into your life. what I'm saying here is that there are a lot of people in this world who have difficulty saying no, and it is not because they are not confident, and it's not because they have no balls. It's not because they don't want to stand up for themselves. And I think a lot of people that I know are extremely confident, right? And extremely strong people, men and women. And even then, I feel like there's so many reservations about being able to voice our opinion. So this topic is about, do you feel that there are certain people in your life that you should say no to, and do you find it difficult sometimes? And if you do find it difficult sometimes, you're not alone in feeling this way, and you're definitely not abnormal. Everything in life is about learning and growth. Chick Daya here is asking how to not be defensive when we don't resonate with people then. I think it's true understanding of ourselves. I think if you can understand where this defensiveness is coming from, then you can understand that, hey, I actually have a fear that people think I'm stupid, or I have a fear that people think I'm not good enough, or I have a fear that, I don't know, that people don't respect me. Maybe it's one of these, I don't know. But it's interesting to ask yourself, right? Like maybe I have a fear that what they are saying, if they don't agree, or if your views and their views don't resonate, maybe you feel that it says something about your character. Like there are plenty of reasons why we would be defensive if what someone is saying is something we don't agree with. Because if you don't agree with this person and you truly don't think what they're saying is true, then you should be able to have no problems with it, right? Like we should be able to not take it personally enough to be defensive. But the fact that we are defensive, the fact that we are triggered is interesting, like every time I get defensive or every time I feel triggered, I feel like it's such an interesting time because I get to examine why am I feeling this way? And when you start asking yourself why, you'll be very surprised with the reasons. Sometimes it's linked to insecurities and fears from our childhood, where we didn't get the kind of validation or the kind of like love that we want, and therefore as adults we're very on guard, we're very protective of what we have built up, and we don't like anybody coming in and making us feel less than who we want to be, right? And this in itself, I think it's an interesting journey, to just explore. Kim Ng, I'm going to help you say no to the children in here. Expelliarmus. How do you pronounce it? It's like a Harry Potter spell. Expelliarmus. Love it. Noor Camila here says, I get what you mean, Xandria, but I guess some people may need to heal from their past and need to protect themselves from harm. So in the sense, they may need to be defensive. I think that every single human being will be able to relate to the feeling of defensiveness on many, many different levels, because I think that like all of us understand what it means to be triggered, right? And what we need to protect ourselves from. And I think like even there's so many things that I think each and every one of us have within us that makes us react a certain way. So it's not whether people need to be defensive. I think it's about whether it's about all of us examining what we are defensive about. Like in my mind there's no like them and me, like the reason I can make these videos is because I'm not any different from anybody, like I write the videos not because I know what's going on and I'm the best. I make the videos because I'm human and I feel these emotions and I understand what it means to be defensive and to be triggered and to have a need for people to like me, and I feel uncomfortable when somebody thinks badly of me, you know, like I understand what all these means, and so then I write about them or I talk about them here with you guys. You're most welcome, Daya. Latifa here says, I've always had a struggle with communication. I'm the type to get defensive, to take things personally, react with emotion, and also went through an abusive relationship in the past as well. So I do have triggers, and I feel like these set me back and make me seem childish. But like you were saying about examining our emotions and asking why, reflection is great. Like, I think that the fact that you are able to share this here is really wonderful, you know? Like, this is exactly what I'm talking about. Latifa, you are definitely not the only person who is like, has a struggle, who have a struggle with communication, you know? Based on the video I've just made about taking things personally, you just read the comments, there are a lot of people who take things personally. And the only reason I can make videos like these and talk about topics like this is because I am a human and I've experienced all kinds of situations where I've taken things personally, and some of them are even more deep than I expected, you know? Like, sometimes you think that you can just not take some things personally, it doesn't bother you, but maybe other things you take personally and it bothers you. So it's very linked to your past history as well. Marina here says, something helpful one of my mentors taught me was to ask yourself, are you saying yes in full freedom? Oh, I love that. That's actually a really great question. In full freedom. You know, there is a certain weight that we carry when we say yes, but a little bit reluctantly. Yeah. So saying yes with full freedom feels joyous. It feels light, you know, there's nothing heavy weighing us down. What you're proposing is an empowering alternative. Well, I'm glad. Well, I'm not even sure if what I'm saying actually makes sense. So I just want to share with you guys like what I'm practicing, and I hope that it helps you as well. Diana. Oh, thank you so much. You know, I don't ever want my page, and I don't want any of my videos or any of my posts to have like debate in comments where somebody says something that is a little bit negative and then other people jump in and feel the need to defend me, or although I super appreciate it, like I feel the love, you know, and I really appreciate the fact that you guys are always looking out for me and that you're so supportive and encouraging. What I do feel is that like there's so many places, like so many posts and so many social media platforms that have people fighting with each other just in terms of like the difference in beliefs and whether they support me or don't support me, or whether this is a negative comment or positive comment, you know. And I feel like all this energy being wasted, you know, when we can be investing this energy in ourselves or in our family or in helping ourselves grow or reading a great book or watching a great movie or whatever it is, right? And so yeah, like the philosophy that I have on my Facebook is that if someone is expressing an opinion, then express the opinion. Like, I'm just going to leave it, right? If I don't agree, I'm just going to leave the opinion, because everyone can just express their opinion. But if someone is expressing something that has a negative impact on, like, just in general, right? If the comment has a negative impact, then I will remove it or I'll ban the person. So, check that. This is my love page. Please remain it that way. Yeah, you know, like like, it's not that you cannot voice your comment. I fully encourage you to challenge ideas, you know, to challenge philosophies that you don't resonate with. In fact, I think us as human beings, we need to be able to be in that space so that we can learn and we can grow, and that is to ask why, you know? And like someone here said, it's about how we go about expressing something. And if anything here is making somebody feel bad about themselves, then we can move on. Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Dick. Hi, Teeny from London. All right, so it's coming up to 1 hour now, because I don't know if you guys know, but I've mentioned it last week. Like, I think because of quarantine and a bandwidth problem that probably Facebook has, that live chat gets cut off at 1 hour and 1 hour time limit. So I'm going to end now, and tomorrow Yuri and I will be here live at 9 o'clock GMT plus 8 again. So if you have any questions, or if you have a topic that you would like us to talk about, send me a message, a DM here on Facebook or even on Instagram, and yeah, let us know. So okay, so I hope that today's topic has served you somehow. Basically, the takeaway, if I can summarize in one sentence, is that everything that we feel uncomfortable with or we find difficult to express, we can examine why we feel that way, so that we're not harboring a lot of frustrations and harboring a lot of resentment and blaming someone or blaming a situation for us not being able to express ourselves. And we need to build the skills to be able to express ourselves. Simultaneously, the skills that build is communication skills with somebody, and also the skills of being able to let go, the skills of being able to acknowledge our fears and needs so that we can let go of them, and that frees us to being able to communicate. Is that a sentence, or is that much more than one sentence? Okay, happy Earth Day. Yes, Yana, today is Earth Day. I saw on Google there's like a cute little game with bees. So if you guys want to like check it out, you can go to Google, like the homepage, click on it, and you can play the game where a bee goes like pollinating flowers. It's very, very cute. All right, have a fantastic Wednesday, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Talk about how to get up from the past. Okay, that's a good suggestion. Maybe we'll do that. See you tomorrow, Sophia. Bye. Be happy always. I just did, Sandy. So, like, the last 2 minutes. Bye.